Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Lynn Haven City Commission. This will be the first time that we've met face to face in several weeks, so we're glad to see each other, glad to see the public, and now call this meeting to order. At this time, our city manager, Mrs. Gaynor, will lead us in a word of prayer. If you would stand, please.
Dear God, we thank you this morning, this afternoon, and God, we praise you for being able to be here. We pray and ask that you bless this meeting, that we do things decent and in order, that we go about the business for the city of Lynn Haven. God, bless all of our residents everywhere. Protect them. Keep them safe. Bless, Father God, our commission as we do the business of the city. And we give you all the praise and the honor and the glory, for it is in his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. The next item on tonight's agenda is the mayor's report. I just wanted to say that it has been good. I was able to visit with my daughter and grandchildren over the past days, and that was very exciting to get to see them after being isolated from them so long. So that's sort of my mayor's report. I think that's rejuvenated me and made me feel ready to work some more. And also, I was very pleased about the opening of the very special memorial park down at Kensall Park that Carol Ladouceur and others have worked so hard to bring about. They were able to pour concrete, and they had children and others putting handprints in that park. And for people who have lost a child, there can be no other grief, I'm sure. I can't imagine. But for them to have a place to go and memorialize a child and watch children playing nearby is a wonderful thing. So congratulations to them for completing that. Moving on to item number 4 for the Commissioner's report, I would call on Commissioner Tender first, and she is present at tonight's meeting, joining us virtually. Commissioner Tender.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, over the last couple of weeks, I've been working on some code enforcement issues with the chief of police and city manager. And I went to the Memorial Park opening there and actually put my handprint on one of those sidewalks. And I was also very fortunate to be in the parade they had for Summer's Landing yesterday for all their residents. Those folks really got excited about it. And it was a big undertaking by their staff, certainly, to get them all out on the sidewalk and in chairs and ready for the parade. But it was just very touching. Some of the family members had big signs, and their little kids were yelling out the windows at their grandmas. So I was really thrilled to be a part of that. And other than that, that's all I've got for this week.
Thank you, Commissioner Tender. Commissioner Russell?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just got a couple of quick things. First, I want to, I don't see Joe here, but I want to thank Joe Footen and the Facilities Department for taking care of the roof on the animal shelter. I'm glad to see that taken care of, but more importantly, his focus now is going to be on the senior center, and that's what I really want to appreciate him getting over there, and Ms. Gaynor for making sure this gets taken care of. And I also want to thank John Delanger and Ricky Ramey for continuing to keep us informed of the COVID-19 situation, as well as all the police things that y'all do, and I appreciate that very much. I've gotten several complaints the last couple of days about a couple of things that I just want to point out. The first one was, I've had a couple people complaining about the 5G towers, and I talked to Ms. Gaynor about it today, and I knew the answer, but I wanted to verify it, that we have no control over where they put these towers. They're coming, deal with them, and I'm sorry, if you don't like them, reach out to, Governor DeSantis, because they don't give us the power to do anything with them. And then lastly, I've had a couple people complaining about the actions that we've taken because of COVID-19. You may not like some of the decisions the state and the federal government and this, commission have made, but please know that, we're just trying to do what's best. We're not perfect, and we might not know the right about everything, but we're doing what we think is best. And that's all I got, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And if I could add to your comments about the 5G towers, the Florida League of Cities has an ongoing legal pursuit about these companies being able to come in and plant these huge towers on our city right-of-ways without any kind of permission. And that has not come to fruition yet, but there are several cities who have entered in that, and I'm anxious to see how that comes out, talking about home rule and the power of cities to decide what comes to their cities. So I'm looking forward to that. Commissioner Aldridge?
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing it's been a tough month for everyone. And again, I just want to commend everybody that's working here for the city, all of our employees, all of our staff. City Manager Gaynor, I know it's a disjointed, difficult situation, but I'll be honest, when I ride around town, everything's still put together. The grass is mowed, we're fixing stuff, we're getting signs straightened, we're fixing the rails to trails and getting that prepped. There's a lot of things still going on. So I just want to thank our staff first and foremost for keeping this thing going. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Aldridge. Commissioner Perno?
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to thank everyone for their attempts to stay safe through this, and all our citizens. And I'd like to thank all of our city employees, our police department, fire department, of course, and our city manager. I think today's workshops were eye-opening and really informative. It's great to see where we can go, and I really thank the people who put on those workshops today. It's good to see progress, and it's good to see people getting back to what our new normal's going to be. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Perno. Moving on to item number 5, the city manager's report.
Thank you,
Mrs. Gaynor.
Mayor. I'm going to ask, before I get started with my report, that our Chief of Police come up and kind of give you an update on code enforcement and some information that may be helpful not only to us but to residents as well.
And I'll also mention I caught the Verizon guy on the pole out here hooking it up while you in the other meetings, and I asked him, I said, what about this pole out here? He took a picture of it and said he'll send it to his boss because they should have already been removed. So the wooden ones, I guess, are going to ultimately come down. Code enforcement, as you've seen in your packet, we have 144 open cases. And I kind of discussed this with a couple commissioners, but we're kind of at a standstill right now because we don't have a magistrate. We can't have the hearings we used to have. But I have to give kudos to Ray and Marla and Monty for doing what they're doing, because they're actually using a lot of what I call verbal judo to get things accomplished, knowing we don't have a magistrate, and they're moving pretty rapidly and getting things taken care of. But how this happens is the person who we feel is in violation gets a 15-day letter. If they don't comply, then they get a 15-day certified letter. If they don't comply, then they have to go before the magistrate. I've set in on these, and he gives the people, every opportunity to correct the problem, which I think is very fair. But at times, I think we need to have a little more stern penalties for when they're not in compliance. I'm used to dealing with state attorneys and U.S. attorneys, and when there's something doesn't happen, there's consequences. So I just think in the future that's something we need to think about. Any questions?
Are you speaking of changing an ordinance, perhaps?
Yes, when it comes to the actual, I would have to say sanctions, how we take them
Okay.
and how we move forward. I think they're very weak where we are right now.
Thank
I think
you.
we can mirror some of the other cities and even the county.
Thank you very much.
Okay?
Thank you for that
You're
advice.
welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. To continue my report, the city continues to follow the strict guidelines that we have in place and to keep our staff and our citizens safe. The lobby will remain closed as from the county standpoint and many of the municipalities. They are closed and really probably will remain closed until phase 3 of the governor's orders. We've done a lot of pre-planning for the 4th of July parade. That is not to say that it's going to happen, but we still have to have some planning in place. And so, Mayor, at this point, I'd just like to hear from the commission about where we should go given the situation we're in, or maybe a motion in terms of that we continue with the planning, contingent upon nothing goes terribly wrong, or that if the orders are still out there, then we will not have a 4th of July parade. At this point, we cannot get together in large groups. And I just want to clarify from the commission, is that you want me to continue to do some pre-planning, or we just want to wait and see?
Members of the commission, go ahead, Commissioner Perno.
I think we should just plan as usual and adjust accordingly. You know, even if we social distanced it, you know, I think our 4th of July parade means a lot to a lot of people. So, you know, they do parades for kids' birthdays and whatnot, and I don't know how we do it or what we do. We'll see what opens up and what comes to us. But I'd say plan on doing it business as usual, I guess, until we're notified otherwise.
Thank you, Commissioner Perno. Anyone else?
I'll speak. You know, at this moment in time, I understand both arguments. I understand both sides, but I agree with Commissioner Perno. For now, I think we stay as is for maybe, you know, another month or 3 weeks or so, and then we can get back together. If it's not looking better, or if there's increases, we can adjust then. But I mean, who knows? It could fall off in 2 weeks. So I agree with Commissioner Perno. Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner Russell?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Yeah, I had that same discussion with the city manager, thinking that we'd plan, you know, that we should probably keep planning. My only concern is the police department having to enforce the social distancing. I don't think the parade itself is the problem. I think it's the bystanders that are watching it and having to make sure they social distance. But I do agree. I think at this point we should, you know, keep moving forward with the planning, and hopefully they'll come up with a vaccine so we can get rid of this stupid thing. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Tender?
Yes, ma'am. I have no problem with us continuing to plan. If there's anything the city manager can do without the planning coming to a large cost of money, you know, if she has to pay for a lot of things, then I would hold back, like Commissioner Aldridge said, for a couple of weeks. But whatever, you know, I would think whatever she can do that doesn't cost us anything, get things in motion, makes sense.
Thank you, Commissioner Tender. And I would weigh in by saying that the governor is definitely moving ahead with the reopening of the state. The Beach Jam concert is already scheduled to take place. I hope that Lynn Haven would go ahead and plan as though the future is going to be bright, because I believe it is. And we should plan not only for 4th of July parade, but fall concerts, Christmas, and all the other holidays. And when we get to the point of close to the date, if something is not going well, we can always cancel. It's hard to organize in a short period of time. So that's my feeling.
Yep. Thank you. That's great direction, and we'll just keep on doing what we're doing. A couple other things. We are going to participate in with several of the schools here. Elementary school called us today and asked if our fire and police would be part of their drive-by parade. Everyone will stay in the cars, and the teachers will be out front 6 feet apart, and our fire and police, along with some other parents, will drive by and say thank you and wave at the administrators and the teachers that are on the sidewalk, which I think is a really great thing for some of the students to see some of their teachers at the end of the year. A really great thing that I think also Mosley High School and the principal there, Brian Bullock, have put together what's called a senior send-off celebration, and that celebration is going to begin off of Baldwin and come down Minnesota, and then there's going to be a drive-by. All the students and their parents will be in cars, and there will be a drive-by. They'll go through 2 parking lots within Mosley. People will be in their cars honking horns and just saying congratulations to those seniors without ever getting out and having large crowds. And then as they exit out, the administrators and teachers will be there handing them some things, saying congratulations. And so we think that to be something really good for the seniors, and at the same time follow the orders that are in place. And Chief Ramey has agreed to help with that, and so that's going to happen May the 19th at 1:30. other things that are happening within the city. We are doing pretty good with reimbursements. As a matter of fact, our total for we've received from FEMA as today is $18,734,830.80. We have paid out $23,403,446.31. That is in debris only. We have 8 projects pending. Many of those projects are building related, sports complex, old city hall, new city hall, those where we can get a check in hand to actually rebuild with 428 projects. And once you do that, if say for instance you don't use all of that money to rebuild a building, you can take some of that money and put it onto another building to rebuild, but you have to rebuild that building according back to where it should be. We are waiting on $2.3 million from NRCS. Again, this is money we've already spent. We spent a little bit over, but because remember, we only get reimbursed at 75%. While we pay at 100%, we only get reimbursed at 75%. So we're waiting on the last money from NRCS. That was our waterways project. And then that money will go back into the bond account where we originally paid NRCS for their services and all the things that they've done. We've been very, very blessed to be able to get through this project and open up a lot of those waterways. The facilities maintenance department has been absolutely wonderful. Joe has done some really great work. He's put, his guys have put a roof on the animal shelter, doing some preliminary work inside. But our focus has turned toward the senior center, as we talked about a little today, and doing some internal construction there in terms of moving some walls and going to put up some windows and doors as we work with Mott McDonald on a couple of things. Lastly, we've been working on our mid-year budget to put that in place so that we can present that next commission meeting. And we're feeling really, really good about it. We're knee-deep in regular auditing. We feel real good about the auditors that we hired out of Tallahassee to come in and do some auditing for us. They ask a lot of questions, have a great finance department that's doing a really good job of being very responsive to their needs. And so the city continues to run smoothly. Staff is working twice as hard because of the fact we know that we are still social distancing and using a lot of conference calls. But we seem to be going in the right direction, and we'll continue this until otherwise stated. And Mayor, that's my report.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Gaynor, and thank you for all that you do to keep the city running smoothly, and also to all the city employees. Thank you for everything that you do every day. Moving on to item number 6 is the city attorney's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I, too, have been dealing with some code enforcement issues. We have an appeal issue, which I feel confident in the processes that were taken by the city, but it is something that we're dealing with. Been working with Florida Architects and trying to complete a contract for them pending resolution of all the other issues we talked today, and a variation of many other issues that Ms. Gaynor and I have discussed. But I'm happy to be back in a meeting, actual physical meeting format with each of you today.
Thank you very much. Moving to item number 7 is the public commentary. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to speak to the commission on any subject. It can be something that's on tonight's agenda, or it can be something else. Is there anyone? There appears to be none. So we'll move on. I'll ask the IT coordinator, Graham, is there any online comments? And he says no. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. Item number 8, that is the minutes from April 28th, the regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any from the public? Mrs. Gaynor, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so the minutes stand approved. There is no old business tonight. We'll move on to new business. Item number 9, this is discussion and possible approval of resolution number 2020-04-323, extending the declared state of emergency due to the coronavirus disease COVID-19 from May 5th through the 11th, 2020 by ratification. This is retroactively because we didn't meet last week. Do you need to do an explanation before the commission looks at a motion, Mr. Albritton?
Yes, Mayor, we had previously talked about this in our virtual meetings when discussing how to move forward as far as in-person meetings. But as this commission is aware, a local state of emergency can only be declared 7 days at a time, and meeting every week the commission felt was not necessary or practical. So one way that Lynn Haven can continue with the state of emergency is have Mayor Anderson sign it in the week in between, and we bring that back to the commission for ratification of that continued state of emergency during the week in between the commission meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Albritton. Is there discussion or a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And I would also like to make the comment, both on 9 and 10, that this continued state of emergency in Lynn Haven, personally, I feel that we've moved to a point that we probably don't need, to have a state of emergency. It kind of makes people feel anxious, but for us to remain eligible for any federal funding that we might need, I believe it is necessary. So I just want to make that comment. Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. So it stands approved. Moving to item number 10, discussion and possible approval of resolution 2020-4-324, extending the declared state of emergency due to the coronavirus disease COVID-19 for an additional 7 days, which will cover the next 7 days. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mrs. Gaynor, any from the public, I'm sorry. Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. Item number 11 is the first reading of ordinance number 1096, an amendment to the Unified Land Development Code regarding dimensions of single-family home structures. There's no action necessary. This is a first reading. Mrs. Gaynor, would you please read ordinance 1096 by title?
An ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending Section 4.01.03 of the Lynn Haven Unified Land Development Code relating to the appearance standards for single-family dwellings, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, and providing an immediately effective date.
Thank you. Ms. Richard, our planning director, did you have a report tonight, or was that you're just here for questions from the commission?
I have other things on here.
Okay.
This is just the first reading.
Okay.
I'll explain it all at the
Thank you.
second reading public hearing.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 12, which is a quasi-judicial hearing. This is a discussion and possible approval of a development order application for an access easement on Highway 77 to serve the new Slim Chickens restaurant and future adjacent development. And I believe Mr. Albritton would need to swear in those people who are here.
My apologies. Those that plan to provide testimony today, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And I would also ask the commission for disclosure of any ex parte communication.
I've had none.
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 I think that was the roll call. Go ahead.
Thank you. This is a request for a development order for an access easement on Highway 77, parcel number 11797-010-000. If you recall, I think it was at the last meeting or the one prior to that you all approved a development order for a Slim Chickens. What's being proposed here is one of those access roads that runs along the front, like parallel to Highway 77, because that was one of the parcels, the Slim Chickens, is going to be constructed there, but there are also going to be eventually adjacent retail in like a strip along there. So what this access road will do, it will take the traffic off 77 into those retail stores so that we don't have lots of curb cuts along 77.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion from the commission? Any from the public? There appears to be none. Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, stands approved. Item number 13 is also a quasi-judicial hearing. This is discussion and possible approval of a development order application for expansion of the Tuffy Tire parking lot at 2406 Highway 77 East. If the same people are here, we don't need to do another swearing in, or do we?
Those that were previously sworn in will continue to be sworn in throughout the quasi-judicial hearings. I would ask the commission for disclosure of any ex parte communication regarding this item.
I've had none.
Had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
Ms. Richard?
Thank you. One thing that I forgot to mention on that last item was that all of these that are coming to you tonight went to the planning board on May 4th. The previous item was voted unanimously, was recommended. This item that I'm about to tell you about was recommended for approval but by a 4-2 vote. So this is a request for a development order approval to expand and construct the parking lot at Tuffy Tires. As you're all probably aware, that's a mess out there at the moment. They don't have the proper asphalt paving on there, and since the hurricane, they've just been so busy and they really didn't have enough parking, and it wasn't very organized. So the applicant is requesting a development order to be able to construct additional on-site parking, as well as improving the existing parking conditions and landscaping at the Tuffy Tire facility located on Highway 77. The site plans have been reviewed and found to be in compliance with the City of Lynn Haven Unified Land Development Code, technical standards, and Florida state requirements.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
I'll second for discussion.
There's been a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mayor, if I may. I'd like to know what the two members that dissented, what was the issue?
They didn't specify when they said no, but I think it was related to a concern about the stormwater, because one of the planning board members actually asked about the stormwater facility because they didn't see a stormwater pond on there. The stormwater was reviewed. We always send out development plans. We use Dewberry usually to do the stormwater review, and the water is being directed to the existing stormwater facility, which is where what the current site usually uses, and it was determined that that facility is adequate to take on this additional impervious.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Russell.
Ms. Richard, I'm familiar with the property, but I'm having a hard time figuring out where the stormwater retention pond is. Is it the ditch on the other side of the road?
Yes.
On the
yes,
other side of...
It's not a pond, but it's a facility. It's a drainage facility on the other side. And their concern was that it sometimes, it gets, I was talking to Bobby Baker, and he said the problem is that people throw stuff in the ditch. You know, because it's on that back road, people will throw things and it clogs up the ditch. So the ditch works fine, but sometimes it gets clogged, and when it gets clogged, it kind of overflows, and so yeah, but that is where it goes. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
If I may,
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner
that
Pardo.
road has a flooding issue as it is right there. I've traveled that road quite a bit, so yeah, that back road. So I don't know how the stormwater is adequate there, because the road holds water, and it's very high. The buildings are much higher than the road there. You come downhill. So I could see where a couple of planning board members had a dissenting view. So
All I can say is that engineers did review the plans, the grading, and the existing facility, and found it to be adequate. And as I said, I did double check with Bobby, because I was like, how is it that people say it floods and yet the engineers are saying that it's adequate? And he said that the problem isn't the facility, the problem is that people throw stuff in the ditch and clog it up. And so it has to be kept free of the clogging. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there any further
Mayor?
discussion? Commissioner Commissioner Tender.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to ask Amanda, is this, I got this site in my head here. Is this where it drains down back behind Caesar's Pizza?
Yeah.
Back in there?
Yeah,
behind-
that roadway that
Caesar's,
runs
Waffle
behind
House,
Starbucks and
Starbucks.
Tuffy's and everything from Publix.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
All
Yes.
right, thank you.
And is Bobby here?
Yes.
Bobby's here if you have any questions, further questions on that.
Commissioner Russell, I think you had another question.
Yes, ma'am, if I may, and actually this question is probably directed toward Bobby. Bobby, that stormwater facility, is it public or privately owned? Public. It is public, so it is our job to maintain it? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, discussion?
Yes, Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioner Aldridge.
Ms. Richards, did they tell you Dewberry, I mean, if we did this, at what capacity are we at with our drainage? I mean, are we maxed out if we did this? I mean, did the engineers tell you, hey, look, you're good, you got plenty, or are we?
The developer have to submit calculations, and I know nothing about stormwater calculations.
Right, well, yeah, I understand that. I just seeing where we are. So we're at 100%, right? So, I mean, my thought process is something goes wrong. I said, well, you knew you were at 100% capacity, right? I mean, that's what they would tell us. So
One more vacant lot there between the.
just thinking out loud here is all I'm doing.
Car wash.
If we could have order, and
Yes, ma'am.
thank you. Does anyone else have a question?
Mayor, if I may?
Go ahead, Commissioner Russell.
I think, and I don't want to put words in Bobby's mouth, but you're saying with this, it will take us to 100%. We're not at 100% right now. Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
And are there metrics showing that we're at 100%, or is that just an estimation?
Mayor,
Uh,
if I may,
Mr. Albritton?
if we could swear in Bobby,
Yes, go ahead, please.
if you would raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
So I guess my question is, are there some definite metrics that would show that it's at 100%, or we're just saying that we wouldn't probably be able to get an approval for anything further? I mean,
And like she said, the biggest problem is there's so much debris goes in there. There's a lot of trash thrown out there. We do our best to keep it cleaned out, and if it rains, we'll go to wash it. That's one of the
Graham, I can't hear him at all.
Commissioner Tender, he was discussing the fact that it has to be checked frequently to make sure the debris does not accumulate. So, maybe we want to do it even more frequently there. I would just say that the fact that we have a planning board that we use to advise us on these type of situations, and the planning board seems to be, in at least the majority, feel that it would be a good move. And so that's just my thought.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
I'd like to point out something else in my opinion. If the stormwater facility is ours, it's our responsibility to maintain it. The engineers are telling us that there is capacity for this to be done. The problem is the trash blocking the waterways. How do you penalize a property owner that wants to develop his property when it's a city-maintained stormwater that's not being, it's not that it's not maintained, it's we have trash issues. But how do you penalize a property owner, for that issue? That was just my opinion, ma'am. Thank you.
I concur. Anyone else? There's been a motion and a second. Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes,
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so it would stand approved. Moving to item number 14, which is also a quasi-judicial hearing. This is discussion and possible approval of a development order application for North Bay Haven Charter Academy on Buccaneer Drive to construct a modular building containing 4 classrooms. Do you have a report as well?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
I would ask that anybody else other than Ms. Richards giving testimony, please stand. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And I'd ask the commission for any ex parte communication.
I've had none.
Had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
Go ahead.
Mayor, if I may ask a question real quick, I'm sorry.
That would be permissible. Go ahead.
Ex parte communication. I have emailed Ms. Richard and asked her questions about this. Would that be considered ex parte?
The applicant is.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I was on the right page. Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead, Ms. Richard.
Thank you. As you stated, Mayor, this is a request for a development order approval to construct a temporary modular building at North Bay Haven Charter Academy, parcel 11344-020-000. The applicant wishes to have approval to place or construct a modular building which contains 4 classrooms totaling 3,456 square feet on the existing school site. It is intended, we have been told, that these portable classrooms will be in place for up to 3 years, but will be replaced by permanent buildings during that time. And the site plans have been reviewed and been found to be in compliance with the City of Lynnhaven Unified Land Development Code, technical standards, and state requirements. The stormwater facilities that are on site have found to be adequate to accept the additional stormwater runoff that would be created by these classrooms. And perhaps I should mention, following what Commissioner Russell, he did contact me earlier today. He had a couple of questions, and one of them was, can we put a stipulation as to how long those portables can be on there? And we certainly can. In fact, when that building, when the school was first went in there, they had a number of portables, and in the development order, we wrote in the development order that they could have them for, and I think that was 3 years, 2 or 3 years. So you can, if you choose to, put that condition in the development order. And there was also some concern, the Commissioner had some questions about traffic on the roads, and so I just wanted to let you all know that there is more than adequate level of service capacity on the segment of road that goes from Transmitter to 231. There's over 5,000 vehicle trips available. On the segment from 389 to Transmitter, they are, it was saying that it was failing, but now in 2018 it was failing by 500 trips, but last year, I looked at the latest data, which was 2019, that FDOT put up there, which is up there now that you can see, and it actually looks as though they're at 16,000. So it looks like they still have an additional 500. But basically, I think what I'm trying to tell you, is that there is capacity on the roadway.
Okay. Is there further discussion? Questions? Any from the public? Is there a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve this with the caveat that the modular buildings are removed within the 3-year period that they stipulated in their application.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from the board? Any from the public? Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, it stands approved. Moving to item number 15, this is the discussion and possible approval for a Weekend Shaded LLC to install sunshades over the Kensall Park Dog Park in accordance with their contract with the city. Mrs. Gaynor?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor, before I give my report, just want to let you know that we've had enormous feedback, great feedback about the shades that are in the park. Someone stopped me the other day and said, I just left the park and I love being there with my kids and not burning up. So I just want to thank the commission again for allowing us to put those in. We did include in the original RFP, which was 1920-3, that any other parks and the dog park was actually included in there. But at that particular time, we did not ask for them to bid on that, but that maybe we looked at that may be something for the future, and we feel that it is absolutely appropriate to go on and put some shading in the dog parks because we do have dog owners that are down there and they use it a lot. So it would be at the large dog park, we would have the large shade, and then at the smaller one, of course, the 2 smaller.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Commissioner Tender.
I just wanted to ask the city manager, what is the cost of these 3 shades going to be?
To install and put everything in, it is $35,400.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions from the board?
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, go ahead,
what
Commissioner.
color
Ford.
are the shades gonna be?
They will, we actually have all of those right now, and we will choose according to what we've done in the past. Is we've looked at the playground equipment that's around
Yeah.
in that park and just matched them to that.
I just, Porter Park, I'm a Seminole, and Porter Park looks like a University of Miami pep rally. I mean, it's great and all, but orange and green
It looks like
kind of
Mosley.
spoils me inside a little bit.
We're going to go with Commissioner Tender there in Mosley.
It looks like Mosley, yeah.
I know.
Is there any more discussion from the commission on pertinent information? I'm just kidding. Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. And moving on to item number 16, this is the discussion and possible approval to award to Sykes Concrete Incorporated the bid for project number 14499 for stormwater and drainage work on Pennsylvania and Georgia Avenue. Public Works Director, do you have a report? Mr. Baker.
Yeah, these were 2 projects, one on Pennsylvania in the 1600 block, and the other one is Georgia Avenue in the 1200 block. Both of these projects were identified in the master stormwater plan, and they do have homes, flooding on both of these homes, so we were very excited to get both of these within budget. We had applied for HMGP money for these projects, but they ranked so low that we decided to do them under the city's budget. So they did both fall within budget. Matter of fact, we were able to have some funds left that we started some preliminary engineering on the Vermont Avenue ditch. So pretty excited about getting these 2 going. It'll help several
Yes.
homes.
Yes. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Baker? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the commission?
Mayor,
Mayor.
if I may?
Yes, Commissioner Russell?
I'd just like to say, I'm excited to see that we actually had 8 contractors apply for this.
Yes.
That's, it's nice to see we got some competition going again.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
We're
Thank you.
excited.
Anyone else?
Yes, Mayor. I'd just like to say, and anytime we could relieve house flooding in our town, it's greatly appreciated. Thank you, Bobby.
I was happy to hear Vermont Avenue mentioned. I've mentioned that area several times, and there's a homeowner there that's still suffering. After I've been mayor 5 years, he's been suffering from day one. So if we can get there next, I'll be very happy to. Anything else from the commission? Anything from the public? Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. Item number 17, discussion and possible approval to amend Panhandle Engineering Task Order number 19-14495 to include emergency repairs of lift station number 38. Mr. Kidwell, we've been discussing lift stations for 18 months. Thank you for being here tonight.
Going on here lately. This lift station is 20 years old. These pumps are the old style that are actually bolted into the bottom of a 23-foot deep wet well. Looking at the age of the pumps, the possibility that these pumps are obsolete, parts may not be available for them, the cost to actually get those out of the wet well, we decided this would be a good opportunity to do a complete rehab. We had some money left over in our budget to do it. We have a contractor already on board for doing lift station 12 and lift station 4. So we are asking that this be included in their contract.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Kidwell?
Where exactly is?
This is on Mosley Drive. In your packet, there was a map kind of showing the subdivisions that are affected by this lift station.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
And Mayor, if I may,
Go ahead, Commissioner Tender.
I just wanted to ask Craig, who is the contractor on this project?
This is L&R. They're the ones who won the bid to do lift station 4 and 12.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions from the commission? Any from the public? Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. And so stands approved. And Mr. Kidwell, while you're standing there, and I made a joke about lift stations, I just wanted to say publicly one more time, your efforts after Hurricane Michael to get the water systems up and running for this city were valiant, and we have not forgotten those.
And staff will be painting those pipes garnet gold.
Moving on and trying to keep order to number 18, discussion regarding continuing, you see when you put people into quarantine for a while and then everybody comes out and gets face to face, it's like being back in school again. Number 18, discussion regarding continuing to suspend utility cutoffs and defer late fees on utility bills through May and June due to COVID-19. Mrs. Gaynor, do you have a report?
Yes, Mayor. At our few commission meetings ago, we did vote to suspend late fees and cutoffs. I think you did it for March and April. We are now in May, and I want some direction as to whether or not we want to continue that through these 2 months. We continue to send letters to our residents that while we have not cut off their water, those bills are still due at some point. So we just want to make sure that we are in line with your thinking.
I would reiterate as mayor that I would like to continue suspending utility cutoffs and deferring late fees on utility bills, and then I would pass that on and ask the commission for their opinions as well.
Mayor, if I may speak?
Commissioner Tender.
Thank you. I definitely think we should continue it as well, because I'm hearing more stories now of people that have not got their stimulus checks, people who are out of work, and they're behind on everything. But obviously they're going to pay their rent and things, and buy food for their kids, I think, first. So I feel like we need to be real supportive of that.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else on the board?
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, Commissioner Russell.
I would almost like to say consider extending the suspension of cutoffs, but to waive the late fees instead of just deferring them.
Thank you, Commissioner Russell. Anyone else?
I
Would you
agree
like-
with that.
Would you
Commissioner
like to
Russell.
put that? Thank you, Commissioner Tender. Would you like to put that in the form of a motion, Commissioner Russell?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Gaynor, you asked for 2 more months?
Yes, sir.
I would like to, I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the utility cutoffs for an additional 2 months and waive all late fees.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. So by an additional 2 months, we're talking May and June, correct? Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Any from the public? Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, may I congratulate everyone for a compassionate decision for our residents. That's wonderful. Thank you. At this point in time, we will adjourn before someone else calls out their school colors. Thank you.